We'll call to order the regular city council meeting for Monday, June 1st, 2015. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Greer.
Here.
Council members Brown,
Present.
Ketchmar,
Here.
Bates,
Here.
Weed,
Here.
Frida. Here. Council members Sharaki and Ekstrom are excused. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the May 18th regular city council meeting and the May 20th Public Works Committee meeting. Are there any corrections? May I have a motion, please? Councilman Bates.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, make a recommendation that we approve the May 18th, 2015 regular city council meeting and the May 20th, 2015 Public Works Committee meeting.
Second.
Second from Councilman Weed. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Bates.
Aye.
Councilmember Weed.
Aye.
Councilmember Frida. Aye. Councilmember Brown.
Aye.
Councilmember Ketchmar.
Aye.
Approved by unanimous vote.
Are there any council member announcements? Councilman Bates.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we have a general government committee meeting Wednesday, June 3rd, 4 p.m. here.
Any others?
Yes.
Councilman Brown.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. Just finished up May. There were an entire month full of epic events, I think, and it's a real testament to our community and the volunteerism that they got all of these events off to a very high level of success. But I wanted to draw attention to the community about how many paid people there were working, and from an economic development point of view, you had literally dozens of people working at each event that were making a fair wage and taking advantage of the system there. So just want to make a comment about that.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda and the consent agenda. Doug, will you review the consent agenda items, please?
Consent agenda for tonight, the first item is resolution number 8. As we've discussed at probably a number of committee meetings, the goal has been to get sidewalk cafes in the downtown area with the widening of the sidewalks on Main Street. And this resolution will revise the city sidewalk cafe permit requirements and procedures and design standards for sidewalk cafes, and hopefully it will make the procedure very simple, very clear, and it will establish a very clear direction for these facilities. I think in the past it kind of said, well, you can't do something unless it's approved. This really tries to make it very clear as to what's allowed and gives people some creative flexibility in putting together their designs for the downtown. Second item is to authorize temporary street closure. This was recommended at the May 20th Public Works Committee, and this is for the closure of 12th Street between Main Street and Greenwood Avenue. The closure would start at 7 a.m. on Friday, June 19th, excuse me, and end at noon on June 20th. And this would be for the annual Ride for the Rocky tour that's sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. Next item is to authorize the mayor's signature on a water service agreement. Again, this was discussed and recommended at the May 20th Public Works Committee, and this is for a water service at 1512 Colorado Avenue. And in this particular case, there would be no system improvement requirements for the property owner as part of this agreement. Next item is to authorize the mayor's signature on a water lease agreement. And we discussed, and this was recommended at the May 20th Public Works Committee. And this agreement would allow the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District to develop a water augmentation plan for the city of Canyon City. And as you know, we sell at our city's bulk water station water. Some of that water is sold to entities and businesses that are outside of the city service area. And so this augmentation plan would allow us to continue that. It's going to cost an amount of $6,835.20 a year for us to put this annual plan in place. But this additional cost would be passed on to the water customers that would be taking that water outside of our service area. The bids for this time, bid number 27. This would be for the engineering department to Avalanche Excavating of Canyon City in the amount of $67,687.37, plus a 10% contingency, a total of $6,768.74. The total award for this project is $74,456.11. This particular project would be for the installation of curb and gutter, concrete curb and gutter on Fairview Avenue between 8th and 9th Streets. And then the second part of this project would be for the installation of concrete curbing and gutter within the 400 block of Floral Avenue, which is that lower part of Skyline Drive. In the case of the first part of the project on Fairview, the adjacent property owners are paying for the majority of this work through an improvement district. On the case of Floral Avenue portion, that is to widen that lower portion of the street so that people can exit down Skyline as well as drive up Skyline to the new Hogback Trailhead, and that part of the project is included in the 2015 budget. Next item is bid number 25 of 15, and this is for the purchase of 3 WatchGuard in-car video cameras for the police department to WatchGuard Video Systems of Allen, Texas, $15,510. This was reviewed and recommended at the May 20th Public Works Committee, and for the purchase of 3 in-car video cameras for the newly purchased patrol cars. This is a sole source bid, and this is also included in the 2015 budget. And then lastly, the list of bills for our last 2-week payable period.
Any additions or corrections? May I have a motion, please? Councilman Weed?
Mayor, I would like to make the motion to approve the adoption of the agenda and the consent agenda as presented.
Second from Councilwoman Frida. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Weed?
Aye.
Councilmember Frida? Aye. Councilmember Ketchmar?
Aye.
Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Councilmember Bates?
Aye.
Approved by unanimous vote.
Next is the administrator's report.
This will be quick since I was gone at the end of the week last week, but I just wanted to let the council members know and again to remind anyone out in the community that may be watching that the council had adopted this economic incentive program, a program that's really intended to try to encourage people to take advantage of this time to begin to construct, whether it's a new home, new commercial building and business, new industrial building and related business, improvements to building facades on historical buildings downtown and so on. Our city planner, Terry Bernath, our building official, Greg Hutchinson, have both been very busy trying to get the word out. They're doing whatever they can to spread the word, and we have gotten that notice out to the media, all the outlets that we can. I think it was gone out to FEDC just as a reminder to them and many, many others. And the good news is, and I'll give you an update on this in more detail later, but we are beginning to see, I think, some things beginning to pay off because of that program. So I'll keep you all posted, and we'll give you some more details at a later date. That's it for tonight.
That's it. Okay, next is our public hearing. This is for the application for renewal of a 3-2 retail beer license at JR's Country Store number 6 at 2495 North 9th Street. I'll open the public hearing and request a report from the city clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Before you is John Montoya, he's the Vice President of JR's Country Stores, who's applied to this council for renewal of its 3-2 retail beer license. Notice of this public hearing was given by posting the premises. Under council's current policy, routine renewals of liquor licenses are generally done administratively and no public hearing is necessary. However, if there are concerns relative to the licensee, the council has directed staff to bring the licensee before them in public hearing. This otherwise routine item has been scheduled for public hearing because they served an underage person during a sting operation that was conducted by the state of Colorado in February of this year. In this case, the licensee paid a fine to the state in lieu of suspending sales of alcohol beverages. Staff sees no reason at this time to recommend against renewal of this license, though council may wish to ask the licensee or representative what actions have been taken to ensure there is no repeat violation. Upon review of the application, the appropriate fees have been submitted. The applicant maintains possession of the premises, the sales tax reportings are current, and the company is in good standing with the Secretary of State. With that, I'll ask council to ask questions of the applicant.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Councilman Ween.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for coming. John,
Welcome.
are you familiar with the Colorado Liquor Code?
Yes, I am.
And is there a copy of the liquor code on file at your establishment? How many employees do you have?
At that location, we have 4 employees.
And are they trained on the liquor code? And if so, how?
Yes, every employee that comes to work for us is trained. We subscribe to what is called the NACS, which is the National Convenience Store Association, and they print up all our materials for our training. And in the years past here, I have always brought a copy of all the training material that you should have on file. But we have questionnaires that they have to go through of their training, and a format that they have to sign that they agree to the training that's been provided. So,
No, obviously something went wrong, so what have you done to sort of,
well, in this case, we had a new employee that had been there only a couple of months, and why she failed to ask for an ID is just, we don't know why she did. We've hired a company called BARS that goes out and does our own stings, and we pay them to keep checking our employees. We give them training. We have meetings in the stores every month. We talk about the importance of selling alcohol to minors. We have them sign a copy. And every employee knows that when they're hired, that if they sell alcohol to a minor, that they are terminated. That's how serious we take it. And in this case, this employee was terminated. And it's just company policy, and we're very firm on that. And over the years that we've been running our business for 29 years now, we've only had maybe 4 violations in the whole state. So, but we're constantly practicing and coaching and recoaching and doing everything we can to try to be compliant.
well, it sounds like you're working hard at it, and this is certainly not the first time we've heard basically exactly that same story. So I guess I'd say good job and keep up the good work. Finally, are you fully aware that you are responsible for compliance with the Colorado Liquor Code and that any violations of this code may be held against you and/or your business and result in the suspension and/or revocation of your liquor license?
Yes.
Obviously. I have no further questions.
Are there any further questions from the council? Councilman Bates.
Have you sent any of your employees to the city's training?
Yes. Yes, we sent, the last one we had, we sent the whole staff. So whenever that notice comes out, we do make sure we get there.
Thank you.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, John, that you've been there, what'd you say, 29 years?
29 years.
29 years, and this is the first and only violation they have had at this local store. So it's commendable that, I was surprised when this one came in, actually.
Any other questions from council? Any comments from the audience? All right, I'll close the public hearing and request a motion. Councilman Weed.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, I'd make the motion to approve the application for the renewal of a 3-2 retail beer license for JR Country Stores on North 9th Street.
Second?
Second from Councilwoman Frida. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Weed.
Aye.
Councilmember Frida.
Aye.
Councilmember Bates.
Aye.
Councilmember Ketchmar.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown.
Aye.
Approved by unanimous vote.
Okay, thank you
Congratulations.
very much.
Next is public hearing for special review use application for a child care center at 505 Delray. I'll open the public hearing and request a report from the city planner.
Mayor? This is a special review use request for a child care center in the R2 Medium Density Residential District. Public notice was published, and the property was posted at least 15 days prior to this meeting as it's required. The Planning Commission considered this application at their regular meeting on May 19th. They had concerns, as did some neighbors who attended this meeting, that traffic is an issue at the intersection of Cherry and Delray because of the park activity across the street. The commission, after some discussion and with input from the neighbors, added a condition that the city engineer evaluate traffic impacts and the need for an additional stop sign at the corner of Cherry and Delray prior to action by the city council. I'll explain that in greater detail as I go through. They recommended, however, to approve unanimously with a revision to one of my recommended conditions plus the addition of the traffic evaluation noted above. This is for a child care center to be located currently in a vacant church with a parking lot on the south. It has access on both Cherry and Delray. It's approximately a half an acre. Surrounding land uses are residential except on the south, which is Harrison Park, and the surrounding zoning is R2 medium density residential. There's existing water service and sanitary sewer. Ms. Santilli, who is the applicant, wants to operate a state licensed child care facility 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. She will be licensed for 50 children, although she had originally suggested perhaps more. She will be restricted by the requirements of the Canyon City Area Fire District for occupancy. And she accommodates about 30 to 35 kids at any one time. The facility has a playroom, a toddler playroom, kitchen, lunchroom. There are also 2 outdoor play areas. The smaller one is on the east side, and that's strictly for toddlers. She has about 4 to 5 employees on a regular basis. The parking requirements have been met with this application. She's required to provide 10 spaces, and she's provided 15. Excuse me, when we were out doing a site visit, we ended up meeting some of the neighbors, and they had some comments and concerns about the proximity of their house to this property. They are less than 20 feet. Their house is less than 20 feet away from the northern property line of the church. And it was staff's suggestion as we talked about this that perhaps a 6-foot privacy fence along the northern boundary of their property would be appropriate. They thought that that was appropriate as well, and that bore out in the Planning Commission hearing. However, we had also discussed a fence along the eastern property line that would be 6 foot, and that would fence in the toddler playground from its proximity to Delray. That turned out not to be an issue and has been stricken from this. That was from the Planning Commission and the neighbors themselves. Excuse me, the applicant anticipates some renovations to the structure and will be required to comply with all zoning, building, fire district, sand district, electrical, and plumbing codes. The referral comments are in your packet, and I'll go through right now the city engineer's adjusted or amended comments. They are dated 5/22. It was after the Planning Commission hearing. He explains, and I'm going to do this very briefly. We can certainly talk about it after that. He is not here, though. He is out of town for this week, and so could not attend this hearing. He explains that the additional traffic generated by a child care center does not warrant a stop sign for east and westbound traffic on Cherry at Delray. His recommendation to waive a traffic study and the traffic impact fee did not change. He also addressed the concerns of neighbors with respect to a culvert that runs along Cherry Street on the subject property. One of the neighbors had pointed out that perhaps that culvert had been crushed. That is a private property issue, but should be corrected by the applicant should that prove to be actually a problem. Mr. Lancaster wasn't able to determine that, but did put that into his comments. And so the applicant is well aware that, excuse me, the applicant is aware that they need to make sure that these culverts operate properly along their property line. In terms of the development features, the size and location of the site is appropriate. Internal traffic circulation and access has been addressed. The location and amount of parking has been addressed as well. Fencing has been addressed with staff recommendations. Building bulk and location, there are no restrictions or limitations suggested. The building is pre-existing and can be converted into this type of a facility. The only other environmental influences were to restrict, excuse me, to fence the northern property line so that it restricted some of the noise for the adjacent property owner. And I will go through, on page 5 are the recommended conditions. I will go through those for you. And one of them we are actually going to change just a little bit, or suggest a change. The applicant must obtain all required building, electrical, and plumbing permits for any construction or alterations that may be necessary and obtain a certificate of occupancy if required. The applicant shall comply with any requirements of the Fremont Sanitation District and the Canyon City Area Fire District. The applicant shall install 6-foot privacy fencing so that the entire north property line is fenced. A license agreement with the city may be required for the replacement of a fence if any fence is outside the property line. Let me explain that real quickly. The fencing on the east side of the property line, based on the GIS record that I could see, looks like it's outside the property line. So that might be something that the applicant will have to address a little bit later on as they're going through this process. On number 3, we suggest that this be reworded so that it says prior to occupancy of the building as the Giving Tree Daycare Center, the applicant shall execute a future improvements agreement with the city for the provision of future public improvements and provide a one-time stormwater impact fee of $375. It may, at the outside, be that the applicant doesn't have to get a building permit, so we didn't want to tie these 2 requirements to a building permit, just their occupancy. Number 4, the applicant must obtain a state license for the operation of a child care facility at the proposed location, a copy of which shall be provided to the City Planning and Zoning Office for its records. Number 5, unless otherwise modified by this approval or other subsequent decision of the City Council as it may apply to this request, all material representations made by the applicant in its application submittal and/or in any public hearing shall be binding upon the applicant. The applicant's failure to perform in accordance with such material representations could result in the revocation of this approval. Number 6, the approval hearing granted shall extend only to the tenancy of Giving Tree Child Care Center or similar organization so long as any subsequent tenant operates the facility in general conformance with this approval and will terminate if the use is abandoned for a period of time in excess of 1 year. I will note that the Planning Commission added another condition, which we have not added into the ordinance because of Mr. Lancaster addressing the issue. And that was that the Planning Commission request the city engineer and the council study making Delray Avenue and Cherry a 4-way stop. Staff was contacted by neighbors to the north. They were Dean and Elizabeth Pershaw. That was prior to the Planning Commission meeting, and several neighbors were in attendance at the Planning Commission hearing on May 19th. There has been no response to the council meeting notice, however, and I'm not sure, I haven't turned around in a few minutes, I'm not sure if there are neighbors here who were also at that meeting. The minutes of that meeting are in your packet, along with a letter that was provided by one of those people who spoke. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer, and also the applicant is here for questions as well.
Any questions for the planner? Councilman Bates?
I've got a couple of them. You're telling me that the planning commission wants the four-way stop, doesn't matter what Adam said? Or what the old study said?
They were not, without his information, and he wasn't specific in his information as he was in his May 22nd memo about what it would take to warrant a stop sign. They believed that a stop sign was warranted.
Okay.
If I may, I maybe can add a little bit to that response. If you look at the city engineer's report on, looks like page 2, toward the bottom, Adam makes reference to the manual on uniform traffic control devices. That's more or less the Bible with respect to all signage. And I know from years of working with him, wearing his hat as city traffic engineer, Mr. Lancaster adheres to this manual quite religiously.
That's what I was, that's what I was getting to, is that the manual, that he doesn't pull it out of the air. There's a manual he goes by.
Goes by the manual, absolutely.
And I can't see with, the commission has the authority to override that manual.
Well, and their suggestion was that he study it and you study it and make a decision.
Well, do you want us to kick this back and not approve it?
I would suggest that it's been studied.
I'm sorry?
I would suggest that the issue has been studied by the traffic engineer.
Yeah, I believe it has. I don't see him changing his mind now any more than he did before.
That's correct. There is no warrant for that, for
Right.
there to be a four-way stop there,
Right.
for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the planner? Would the applicant like to say anything to the council?
I'm Denise Santilli, and the only thing with as far as the traffic situation, Harrison School operated up there for many years and has since moved. But the other thing that at our facility, the children are staggered coming in, so it isn't like all 35 kids come in at one time. Do they leave at one time? No. So it's sporadic, so it isn't like it's a congested situation. So I think that as far as how much traffic influence there is, I mean, it's going to increase the traffic some, but it isn't an influx all at one certain time. Everybody doesn't come at 8 o'clock and leave at 3. So I think that also has an impact on the traffic. So, and I just thank you all for taking the time to look at this and consider it. So, thank you.
Any questions for the applicant?
Just for our record, are there any of the proposed conditions of approval objectionable to you, or are they all acceptable?
At this point, they're acceptable. I think they're manageable.
This may be the point of no return. So they
I
are-
understand that.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments from the audience? All right, I'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to 7B, which is ordinance number 3, series 2015, first reading. I need 3 to introduce. Whoa.
Were there any other people in the audience that wish to speak? I don't know. If not, I would ask that the correction made to the report also be made to the condition.
Would you like me just to read it?
Could you just read it back?
I will. It's condition number 3. And instead of prior to the issuance of a building permit, it should say prior to occupancy of the building as giving as the Giving Tree Daycare Center.
You can consider the ordinance to contain that language. You could introduce it, and we wouldn't have to amend it.
We're changing the ordinance up front, and then we're going to go into the ordinance. Okay, so, all right. We'll move on to ordinance number 3, series 2015. As amended with the deletion of recommendation number 3, I need 3 to introduce. Councilman Bates, Councilman Ketchmar, Councilman Weed. Clerk, read by title, please.
This is a bill for ordinance number 3, series of 2015, an ordinance amending section 17.24.050 of the municipal code to add thereto a new subsection identifying a certain land use permitted only by special review, a child care center located at 505 Delray Avenue.
May I have a motion, please? Councilman Bates.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I make a recommendation that we approve ordinance number 3, series of 2015 as amended. First reading.
Second.
Second from Councilman Weed. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Bates?
Aye.
Councilmember Weed?
Aye.
Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Councilmember Ketchmar?
Aye.
Councilmember Frida?
Aye.
Approved by unanimous vote.
Congratulations. Next is item number 8, a zoning code amendment. This is amending chapter 17.30.050H to no longer allow off-premise signs. There will be no council action taken on this item this evening, but we will get a report from the city planner.
The Planning Commission heard this and had several concerns about this amendment and decided to table it. I can go into greater detail if you wish, but perhaps there will be a discussion again at a committee meeting if you wish to proceed further.
Are there any questions from council? Is anybody curious why they decided to table it?
Said in the report.
And if the matter comes forward again, it will be preceded by new notice.
Okay. All right. Any comments from the audience? Well, the audience is a lot smaller than the last time I looked up.
Actually,
Okay, thank you, Terry. Last is citizens' request to speak to city council.
we have received no written request to speak to council this evening.
I have a couple people out there. They still have a chance. One of them looks like she's always got something to say. All right, we'll adjourn.